Welcome to the Leadership in Law podcast with host Marilyn Jenkins. Cut through the noise, get actionable insights and inspiring stories delivered straight to your ears. Your ultimate podcast for navigating the ever-changing world of law firm ownership. In each episode, we dive deep into the critical topics that matter most to you, from unlocking explosive growth to building a thriving team. We connect you with successful firm leaders and industry experts who share their proven strategies and hard-won wisdom. So, whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey as a law firm owner, the Leadership in Law podcast is here to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to build a successful and fulfilling legal practice.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Law podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Jenkins. Please join me in welcoming my guest today, RJon Robins, to the show. RJon is an 8-figure entrepreneur, licensed attorney, and best-selling author. He founded How to Manage a Small Law Firm at his kitchen table while flat broke in 2009. He has since achieved an 8,000% revenue growth and now has over 600 of the fastest-growing small law firm owners in the country as members. Operating in multiple countries, RJon works in the business about 90 days a year and spends the other 170 days launching new and profitable business ventures. He speaks to thousands of law firm owners annually, helping them define the meaning of profit and break free from the mindset that they need to suffer in order to build a profitable business. I'm excited to have you here, RJon. Welcome.
Thank you. Wow.
Awesome.
You know that song, Jukebox Hero?
Yes.
There's a line where he years later, he's walking in the stadium through the backstage door and catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror. And he's like, oh my God, look how much my life has changed. Listening to that introduction, I had to relocate our meeting. I was supposed to originally do this podcast from my office, which is down the block from where I'm sitting right now in my art gallery. And the art gallery, we recently purchased the space, but it was actually the original office that we launched this whole business from. After the kitchen table, when we finally, a few years later, our first real office was the space that I'm sitting in now. And It's just a little like amazing for me to be sitting in this space and then to hear that introduction. And I'm looking out the window and remembering who I was back in 2011, when I was sitting in this space, looking out the window, trying to figure out how am I going to build this business? What am I going to do? It's pretty spectacular and humbling to think about how much luck was involved. Luck is involved in everyone's success. And that's something that I think not enough people give enough credit to, how much luck is involved. You make good decisions and good decisions and good decisions and good decisions, and you take action and you take action and you take action and you take action, and you get knocked down and you keep getting up and you keep going and going and going. And eventually luck goes your way and bam, you end up with 2 separate 8-figure businesses last year. Actually, they were both multi-8-figure businesses, but to think about, like, there was a lot of luck involved. And there was a lot of just getting up and peeling myself back up off the mat and keep going. And I think that's one of the things that's really discouraging when you see law firm owners who believe that it's all about them and they don't give enough credit to luck, or they use luck as an excuse to avoid taking the actions and making the right decisions. And I know this is going to connect up to something that you and I talked about when we first met, about law firm owners who turn on their marketing, turn off their marketing, turn on their marketing, turn off their marketing. And that just confuses luck, right? That's just like, makes it hard for luck to work for you. I'm talking as if luck, has sentience. It does not. But it makes it hard to really benefit from when luck goes your way.
Right.
And it makes it hard to learn from the experience when luck doesn't go your way if you're turning it on and turning it off. Anyway.
And I think part of that is
this is not what I was planning to talk about today. It's just hearing that introduction and being in this spot unexpectedly, because my whole team just grabbed my podcast kit and like ran down the block when they started the door unexpectedly. And I'm just having like one of those moments. So I'm sorry. Thank you for indulging.
That would have been a funny scene to see, but no, I get it. When construction happens out of the blue, I get it. And talking about that turning marketing on and off, it's something I struggle with trying to explain why you wouldn't want to do that. And I think a bit of what happens is we're watching other people on social media, and you see the great things that are happening, and you don't realize that what you're looking at is a highlight reel. When you said you pick yourself up off the mat, we all have ups and downs. Business is not an all and up and like a hockey stick and stays that way. There's ups and downs, and I think when you the first thing you cut of your budget because you're having a lean month is marketing, is cutting off your nose to spite your face, as my grandmother used to say.
So look, there's two different kinds of overhead. There's static overhead and there's dynamic overhead. And unfortunately, most owners of small law firms didn't go to business school. They don't have an MBA. They don't have a finance degree. They don't have a CPA behind their name. And neither do I, by the way. I went to this, I'm a graduate of the School of Hard Knocks. I went to college. I studied undergraduate, was communications law, economics, and government. No business, no finance, no marketing, none of that stuff. And of course, they taught me none of that in law school. But I went to the School of Hard Knocks. And one of the things I learned there is that there's actually two different kinds of overhead, which most people don't understand. And because they don't understand that there's two different kinds of overhead, they inadvertently cut the wrong one, right? Spy movies, like a James Bond movie, that moment where it's the red wire or the blue wire, the red wire or the blue wire. You cut the wrong wire, everyone's going to die. There's the dramatic moment where you just cut the wire, right? Well, imagine if you didn't have to guess because you knew which one was the red wire and which one was the blue wire, or I should say, you knew what the red wire did and what the blue wire did, right?
Right.
There's two different kinds of overhead. And because most law firm owners have no idea what I'm talking about, if they turned off the podcast right now, they could go the rest of their life and never learn what is the difference between static overhead and dynamic overhead. And there's a 99% chance their accountant isn't going to talk to them about it, and their bookkeeper isn't going to talk to them about it, and no one on their staff is going to talk to them about it because, quite candidly, most people don't know. And if you cut the wrong overhead, if you cut dynamic overhead, thinking that you're cutting static overhead, or if you cut dynamic overhead, not understanding that there's a difference between static overhead and dynamic overhead, you could really do yourself a lot of damage in your business and create a cycle of feast or famine, which is exactly what you're describing they experienced. And this is why you shouldn't cut marketing, because when you cut your marketing, you are planting the seeds for the next cycle of feast or famine in your business. And if you're an entrepreneurial infant, if you're very entrepreneurially immature, if you're like one of these kids that's going to fail the marshmallow test, if you know what I'm talking about, right? You know the marshmallow test, don't you?
No, is it s'mores? No,
the marshmallow test is they give kids a choice. They say you can have one marshmallow now, or if you wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, you can have two marshmallows. And really, certain kids go for the one marshmallow because they don't have the ability to discipline themselves and wait for the two marshmallows. Would you rather one marshmallow or two marshmallows? Assuming you like marshmallows, you'd rather have two. Right?
Two, correct, yeah.
If I tell you can have one marshmallow today or two marshmallows tomorrow, you'd probably rather have two marshmallows, right?
Right.
If I told you can make $100,000 this year and $100,000 next year and $100,000 a year after that, or you can make $75,000 this year $125,000 next year, $150,000 a year after that, and $200,000 a year after that, what would you do?
The second.
Well, a lot of people watching this podcast who are experiencing feast or famine marketing, feast or famine revenue, feast or famine cash flow, I'm going to say, probably unconsciously, probably unwittingly, probably without realizing it, maybe with bad advice, maybe with no advice, they chose to grab the one marshmallow today. I'm going to save $1,000. I'm going to save $5,000. I'm going to save $5,000 and stick it in my pocket. And look at me, I'm a genius. I got an extra $5,000 to spend on life today. But if I left that $5,000 working for me in the marketing, it could produce $7,500 in 6 months. It could produce $10,000 in a year. It could produce $20,000 if I give it a little time and give it a chance to grow and develop. This is the marshmallow test. By the way, there's a whole bunch of sociological reasons why certain kids grab the one marshmallow instead of waiting for 2 marshmallows. And the marshmallow test, for anyone who knows the marshmallow test, is widely misunderstood and widely misinterpreted to be a function of the kid's character or intelligence. And it's actually has nothing to do with that.
It would be interesting to see what their DISC assessment would be when they reach adults.
Well, not to get too sidetracked, but what has been actually figured out over years of studying the data and retesting and doing different variables is it actually has to do with the income and level of security that the child has in their life, whether they grab the one marshmallow now or have the confidence to wait for 2 marshmallows. So it actually is not about intelligence. It's not about character. It's not about, the kid's future potential because of any inherent characteristics. It has to do with a kid who comes from a household where they don't have a lot of food security, don't have a lot of housing security. Maybe there's instability in the relationship between the parents. That kid is going to tend to grab that one marshmallow now because that kid is uncertain about their future.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when they do the research and they follow the kids 10, 20 years later and they see how they perform in college, it's not surprising that kids who come from disadvantaged, unstable backgrounds tend to not do as well in life as kids who come from more stable backgrounds. So they've misinterpreted the data for many, many years. And now the marshmallow test is widely misunderstood, which actually I feel like that's exactly on point with the topic we're discussing today, because marketing is widely misunderstood by law firm owners, because law firm owners have no formal training on marketing or business management. And so they're unclear about how marketing works. They don't really understand the causes that produce the effects they keep experiencing. And so in the absence of confidence and education and understanding and clarity, they grab that marshmallow today while they can. That, I think, is why they turn off the marketing, turn on the marketing, turn off the marketing, turn on the marketing. Not because they're stupid. It's because they're insecure about the future. Secure entrepreneurs don't turn off our marketing, ever.
Correct. One of the things I keep bumping into is it seems like the holy grail of attorneys is they want to have all referrals. And that's depending on someone else, relying on someone else to grow your business for you. And, when I get these attorneys that we're talking about, and they're like, how are you getting new cases? Oh, 100% word of mouth. You're relying on someone else to remember to think of you when they know someone who has a need. Where if you have marketing running consistently, you have branding out there, you have your message out there, you're going to get a consistent flow of new cases, however you choose marketing. One of the newer platforms is streaming media. You have meta ads, you have Google PPC, you've got all sorts of offline ads. But do you talk to your members about like percentages of goal revenue of what they should be spending on marketing How do you coach on marketing that way?
Right. So first of all, I'm a big fan of referral-based marketing. Referral-based marketing is fantastic.
I absolutely agree.
The more we get, the better. I just want to make sure that the audience understands that we're not saying that you shouldn't try to get referral-based marketing.
You always want that. Those are the easiest to close, but those are not the only ones.
Very predictable, reliable ways to trigger a predictable, reliable, dependable source of a steady flow of referrals. There's ways to trigger and increase referrals. We teach this all the time to our members. And we all know the worst number in marketing. The worst number in marketing is the number one. One source of clients is dangerous, right? Because I've been doing this since all I've been doing is helping lawyers build successful law firms since August 24th, 1999. That was the day that I reported for duty at the Florida bar at the Law Office Management Assistance Service under the legendary J.R. Phelps. And that is where I started learning about the business of running a successful law firm. And I've seen Google change make major changes to its algorithm, like major changes, like landscape changing, industries go out of business. You call your marketing vendor and they say, we're out of business. There's nothing more we can do for you because Google changes its algorithm. Do you happen to know how often Google changes their algorithm per month?
Oh, it could be daily these days. But I mean, at the time, back when you're talking about the ginormous changes were named by animals. They were that.
Right. Google changes their algorithm 13 times a day. Every day, the algorithm is changing 13 times a day. Little things, right?
Little tweaks, yep.
That's just Google, right? And then, there's the major changes that are always happening. Every 5 years, like history repeats itself. Every 3, 5, 7 years, average about 5 years, Google makes a major change, and like nothing, everything that was working stops working, and everything that wasn't working starts working, and that's just Google, right? So
keeps guessing.
The point I'm trying to make is, I've been here doing this since before there was Wi-Fi. I've been doing this since before there was Facebook. I was helping people build successful law firms before there was Facebook, before there was Twitter, now X, before there was, any of this stuff, before there was YouTube, right? Things are always changing, and anyone who is only depending on one single marketing channel, you are setting yourself up for extinction, or at least a lot of suffering, when, not if, things change. So you got to constantly be testing. So work your referral systems, join your BNI, work your referral list, do all of those things. Yes, and yes. And also be testing direct mail.
Right.
And also be testing a old-fashioned paper snail mail newsletter. And also be testing going out and doing speeches. And also be testing the latest things that are working in the world of digital marketing and digital media. It's not an either or, thing. You got to try as much as you can afford to try. And I appreciate that your revenues are under $1 million in gross revenue. You don't have the budget to try everything, but you can try a few things. And don't ever turn it off until you see that the data is showing you that you're not getting an ROI for at least 6 months.
Are you a woman attorney running your own firm but feeling like you're on a never-ending treadmill? This podcast is sponsored by Wealthy Woman Lawyer, the business coaching company that's helped hundreds of women lawyers over the past 12 years, just like you, transform
revenue-draining practices into wealth-generating machines. Their clients, including Brittany and Gianni, routinely break the seven-figure barrier while working fewer hours. The difference? A systematic approach that builds a firm that works for you, not the other way around. Ready for a practice that funds your dream lifestyle and gives you time to enjoy it? Visit wealthywomanlawyer.com today.
Right. Right. I mean, the one thing, we do a lot of meta ads for our clients, and we have the reps that work for Meta that like to call and be your coach and tell you how to do better and how to make your ad campaigns work better. And every single suggestion is spend more money. That is not data. You can go into the reports, look at your data, see what you're getting, and just understand. And the other frustration is, okay, you're doing digital marketing, you're doing all this different marketing. You have to remember and realize different leads are different, if that makes sense. So referrals, they come to you, they know you, they have an expectation that you're great and that you can help them with their problem. An internet lead, whether it's Google PPC, traffic to your website, meta ads, any of those, even streaming TV leads, there's ads when you're watching a movie on Amazon or whatever, we help that as well. All of these leads, they don't know you in the beginning.
You have to give them a funnel. You have to give them a way to get to know you. You have to give them some, like when you go to the ice cream store, right? You go to the ice cream place and they give you a little free taste, right? You want to taste this, you want to taste that, you want to taste, and then you decide the one you want, right?
Yep.
So you got to look, the more you're spending to get a prospect, the more you have to give them for free to warm them up and get them really in the right place to be ready to hire you. And there's some exceptions to this, of course, right? The DUI defense law firm that is targeting people who just got arrested yesterday, or they're in jail, and they're like calling the first number they can find. Yeah, I need to hire someone to get me out of jail. Yeah, of course. Time for a big warm-up campaign. But the vast majority of practice areas will benefit if you'll just slow it down a little bit, right? Go for the 2 marshmallows. Don't just grab the 1 marshmallow. Slow it down and build something that will really pay off big and consistently in the future. Don't just go for the quick win today. But to your point, Marilyn, turning on the marketing, turning off the marketing is a very rookie move. And ending, it like I said, it's driven by lack of security and lack of confidence. And look, I've been there. I've been broke. You mentioned it in the introduction, right? I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to spend money and literally, this is money that I could use to buy new tires for my car that needs tires. But instead, I'm going to have some faith in my plan, which of course is part of the problem, is a lot of these people who are turning on the marketing, turning off the marketing, turning on the marketing, turning off the marketing, they don't actually have a real business plan, right? They're just surviving from quarter to quarter or month to month. But if you have a real business plan, if you actually have a real business plan, which, let me preface this by saying, we've had a waiting list for the better part of 3 years here at How to Manage Small Law Firm, right? I'm not here trying to sell anyone anything except, please buy my book. Please go to Amazon and buy my book, right? Other than that, I got nothing to sell you but a $20 book from Amazon, right? And I get maybe $6 off the book. Well, it's probably selling 1 million books. No, I wish, right?
Always.
Books. I'm not selling enough books that makes a single difference in my life, I promise you. I wrote the book as a passion project. I wrote the book because I believe in the subject. And I wrote the book because Mike, the author of Profit First, asked me to write the one for law firms, and I did. And I wrote every word of this myself, by the way. No ghostwriters, no AI. This came straight from my heart. Anyway, great book.
We'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Sorry?
We'll have a link to that in the show notes for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, the point I'm making is I got nothing to sell. I'm here just to give and share. And And if you want, in the show notes, I'll give you a link that anyone who is a fan of your podcast, we can give them like a free business plan lesson, a free business plan workbook, with instructions for how to do your business plan. You don't need to pay me to do your business plan. You can do your business plan yourself, and I'll give you the tools and the resources to do it. And when you have a business plan, then you see the impact of turning your marketing on and turning your marketing off. And you'll see how it just eviscerates your plan. I mean, your plan turns to garbage. Your plan turns to shreds when your business plan is based on a certain amount of causes to produce the effect that you're after, right?
Right.
And you give the cause, you remove the cause. You give the cause, you remove the cause. You give the cause, you remove the cause. I mean, you're just creating chaos. And of course, because they're experiencing chaos, they say everything's chaotic. Well, yeah, everything's chaotic because you keep causing the chaos, because you keep turning it on and turning it off. Anyway.
And especially with digital marketing, it does run on data. As you run ads, the ads are learning. You're telling the ads who your ideal customer is. And as it finds those people for you, and then you go, oh, I'm too busy. Now I'm going to turn them off because I don't have time for another case. But I don't have yet enough money to hire an associate to help me with that. So then you stop your marketing. Then you have to begin again, which takes a ramp up period to get them to start again. So it's
happens is when you realize that you turned it off for too long and now you're desperate. You know that, by the way, 54% of the bar grievances that are filed nationally originate as a law firm management problem.
Really?
Yeah, 54% of the bar grievances that are filed nationally, and every state, average, obviously. Average 54% of the bar grievances that are filed nationally start off as a law firm management problem. And you know what one of the leading law firm management problems is that causes a lot of these bar grievances?
No.
Well, we've been talking about it the whole time. Turning on and turning off their marketing. For real. I used to work at the Florida bar. I'm telling you, this is true. Because what happens is, it's so obvious when you think about it, it's just people don't think about it, right? What happens is you turn on the marketing, right? Let's even suppose it works. You turn on the marketing, you bring in a bunch of business. Now you're full of business, you got full of work, right? And so you go, oh, Marilyn, turn off my marketing. I'm too busy, right?
Yeah.
You try to convince them that's a bad idea. They don't listen. They turn off the marketing, right? Now they're no longer buried with work. Now they're just comfortable. Life is great. Then they get from comfortable with work to scraping the bottom of the barrel of their work, and they get a little desperate, and so they call you, hey, Marilyn, could you turn off the marketing again, please? Because I need more business now. Oh, you were flush. Well, I was, but now I'm desperate.
Yep.
So you turn on the marketing, and of course, as you mentioned, it doesn't just instantly go back on, right? And anyone who tells you they can instantly turn the marketing back on, they're lying to you. We could have a whole different podcast episode about all of the lies that lawyers love to believe.
True.
There's a lot of unethical marketers who tell lawyers lies. The lawyers desperately love to hear these lies, right?
Yes.
Most of those lies are designed to absolve you of personal responsibility for your decisions. So it's like, oh, this marketer will absolve me of my personal responsibility for my decisions if I just throw enough money at them. No, they won't. It's a lie. Anyway, so the point I'm making is they turn off, so they come to you to turn on the marketing again, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But while they're waiting for the marketing to kind of get going again, they're desperate. Yeah. And so the next F client, client grading scale, A, B, C, D, F, the next F client, the next raving lunatic with a bad case, or it could be the nicest person in the world, but the case just isn't the right case for your firm. Mm-hmm. But they come in with money, and the law firm owner who's desperate talks themselves into taking the case that they know they shouldn't take from the client they know they shouldn't be representing. And guess what you wind up with 18 months later, quite predictably, 54% of the bar grievances that are filed nationally start off as law firm management problems. And I'm not saying that 100% of that 54% are marketing related, but a lot of them are.
And I think we can all say over the course of our careers that we've taken clients we shouldn't have, and they were typically in that moment of desperation. And you have to learn why did I do that?
Client, when no one takes a bad case of a bad client when you're not desperate. I mean, no one's that stupid. Everyone knows they're desperate. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, turning off the marketing, bad idea. I feel like we made that point. I feel like anyone who hasn't got the point by now is working hard to not get the point.
Very true. Very true. Well, let's talk about how to manage a small law firm. So your process is you start them with a business plan. What is your ideal member, the starter? So say someone's thinking about joining, who would that be ideally?
So first off, let's talk firm size.
Right.
We work with the largest firms that we work with are in the $15-20 million range.
Okay.
We also work with hundreds of firms that are less than $250,000 in revenue. But we've got stages that we take the firms through. So different stage, we have different programs designed to take them through the different stages of growth. So hopefully they never outgrow us.
Yeah.
Our business model is to always be relevant and help them get to the next stage so they stop using the services that they needed before, and now we have the next level of services that they need next. All right, practice area. When you understand how the business of a law firm works, you quickly figure out that there is a very thin veneer of difference between a family law firm versus an immigration law firm versus a bankruptcy law firm versus a litigation law firm versus a personal injury law firm versus a criminal defense law firm. It's kind of like saying that the Italian restaurant is a completely different business model than the steakhouse.
Right.
But the steakhouse is a completely different business model than the seafood restaurant, right? The mechanics that underpin a successful law firm are nearly identical in all practice areas, right? Very predictable, easy to understand. So practice area doesn't matter. You mentioned that we work with law firms in different countries. That's true, but primarily in the United States. We have about 600 law firms that we help to manage all over the United States, all different practice areas. Okay. I'm very proud to say, this might not matter to some people in the audience, but it matters to me, that we greatly overrepresent minorities in the legal industry. So there's a certain percentage of Black people who are lawyers, Asian people who are lawyers, Hispanic people who are lawyers, owners of law firms who are women, owners of law firms who are gay, owners of law firms who are left-handed. What we as a community greatly overrepresent in these areas, not because we try, by the way. I mean, we don't go out of our way to do it. It wasn't like a conscious plan or like a strategy. It's actually because of the way the legal industry works that causes minorities to be pressed to start their own law firm in larger percentages than non-minorities.
Okay.
So
instead of joining a large firm, they're more pressured, you think, to hang out their own shield. So, and they also then, of course, will reach out for coaching to help them get that leg up and get going correctly.
Well, you say instead of joining the large firm, the large firms aren't hiring.
Okay.
They're not like having the choice. And, you have two different lawyers, a man and a woman. Let's say they both went to college, got the same degree from the same college with the same grades. And then let's say they went to law school and they went to the same law school and got the same grades. And let's say they got a job as a first-year associate with the same law firm. Yeah. And
he makes a lot more money.
Sorry?
He would make a lot more
No,
money.
no. They'll make the same
No?
money. No, they'll make the same money.
Okay.
The same money to begin with, because also in my example, the owner of this law firm, the owner of this big law firm, is the most fair, reasonable, an angel, an absolute angel, marched in the civil rights, not 1 ounce of prejudice in their body, right? Both of these two lawyers then decide to get married to different people, not each other. And then eventually they both decide to have a family, right? His wife has a baby. She has a baby. Yes? Well, his wife has a baby.
Doesn't impact his career.
How much work does he really miss?
Right.
Not much, right? She has a baby. She's going to miss work, right? She should miss work because those are really precious, important times with the baby to take a real legitimate maternity leave. And then even in the baby's first year or two, you want to give the baby everything that the baby needs, right? So now the owner of the law firm has a client, and the client comes to the firm, and the client is pursuing a case to enforce civil rights and women's rights, and I mean, it's the most liberal, righteous case in the world, with the best clients in the world, with the owner of the law firm who's the most liberal, fair, balanced, reasonable person in the world. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
And the owner of the law firm says to the client, listen, this case is really make or break it for you. And we have a choice. You can be represented by either or by two associates. They're both brilliant. And the client says, well, which one has more experience? Well, obviously he's got more experience, right?
Yeah.
Because he has more experience, he now gets more experience. Are you saying it works?
Yeah, exactly.
More experience, he then gets more experience. And this snowballs until she eventually says, can I curse on your podcast?
Sure.
Fuck it. I'm out of here. I'm going to start my own law firm. And we love working with these people because we love helping them build multi-million-dollar law firms. And then they go back to their former boss and they're like, I made more than you.
Yeah.
Now I own my own law firm. And we teach them to do it right. Anyway, I don't even know this little segue. How did we get onto this subject?
I'm not sure how we got on that, but it's really good. I mean, I love the drive of working with small law firm owners that have that drive and desire to grow. So, and I do want to be respectful of your time as well.
Anyway, we got a 3-year waiting list. I'm not here to pitch it or push it or maneuver anyone into anything. They can go to our website. They can download all kinds of free stuff. If they're interested, they can schedule an appointment to talk to someone on my team. We'll help them do a diagnostic, and then based on the diagnostic, we'll give you free stuff, right?
Okay.
Not that we'll give you free stuff or we won't give you free stuff. The reason why we do the diagnostic is so we send you the right free stuff, and we don't send you the wrong free stuff, right? Because you might think you have a marketing problem, but you might actually have an intake problem. You might think you have a staffing problem, but you might have an onboarding problem. You might think you have a cash flow problem, but you might have a process and procedures problem. So let's diagnose it. And then we'll give you tons and tons of free stuff, keep giving you more and more free stuff. And if you want, you can grab a spot on the waiting list. And then when a spot eventually opens up, we'll let you know the spot is opening up, and you'll have already consumed so much free stuff, and you'll start getting such great results that you'll say, okay, well, this is an easy decision to say yes. Nice. Like, that's my sales pitch, by the way. That's it.
I love it. Give value, and that teaches people who you are. I love that. So especially, I love the idea of the business plan. So I want to make sure that I include that. We'll include a link to your book. And say someone wants to, obviously, how to manage a small law firm.com. We'll have a link to that. So that's the best way to reach you and follow what you're doing. Are you on LinkedIn? Is that a good place to reach out to you or follow you?
No, I'm very active on social media, unfortunately. I mean, we never turn off our marketing. So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because we never turn off our marketing. That's just not the channel that we really leverage the most right now.
Okay.
Mostly,
Well,
we leverage our relationships like this and giving out lots and lots of free reports and writing books. We just give away so much free stuff that people come to us to get on the waiting list and we grow. Never turn off your market. And
never turn off your marketing.
And this is the thing that inexperienced marketers don't understand. They're like, oh, why is it that you say that you have a waiting list and yet you're doing this marketing? Because you should never turn off your marketing. Never turn off your marketing. I would turn off the electricity before I turn off the marketing. Because having more electricity isn't going to bring in any more revenue. But if I do more marketing, I could bring enough revenue to maybe turn the lights back on.
Yes. I love that. I love that analogy.
In the office, I know we're getting towards the end of it, but it's like I'm sitting here in the office, and as I'm talking to you, I'm literally remembering my desk used to be on the other side of that wall. Back in 2011, my desk was on the other side of the wall that's behind me right now. And I remember sitting there, literally having to make this decision, right? And I remember I called the landlord who now we own the space, but at the time we rented the space. And I remember calling the landlord and asking him if we could pay the rent a little bit late because I was spending the money on marketing, literally. And today, we have 600 law firms under management and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? That wasn't a fun phone call to make.
Yeah.
But I was smart enough to call him before the rent was due. I called him like 2 weeks before the rent was due. So he wasn't caught by surprise. But the point I'm making is, like, if you're going to go out of business, and I'm not suggesting that anyone listening to this is going to go out of business, but I'm making a point, right? If a company goes out of business, the last dollar they should spend before they go out of business is on marketing and sales to try to not go out of business. But that's not what they do. They end up spending marketing. They end up spending their last dollar on static overhead, which isn't going to save them because they don't know the difference between static overhead and dynamic overhead, and their accountant isn't proactively involved in the strategizing and planning of their business. By the way, I'm not going to explain the whole big difference between static overhead and dynamic overhead.
We'll get your book.
And by the way, there's a podcast called Profit First for Lawyers. And I think there's an episode of Profit First for Lawyers that they need to listen to for free where we talk about static overhead versus dynamic overhead.
We'll definitely include a link to the book in the podcast. Absolutely. RJon, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you with us, and I've just been so excited to have you and have this conversation.
Thank you. And I look forward to having coffee on Monday.
Absolutely. I will see you Monday. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me today for this episode. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take the next step with a digital strategist to help you grow your law firm, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to lawmarketingzone.com to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, thanks for listening to Leadership in Law Podcast, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Leadership in Law Podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of law firm owners out there facing similar challenges and striving for the same success. Head over to our website at lawmarketingzone.com. From there, connect with other listeners, access valuable resources, and stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep leading with vision and keep growing your firm.